So here we are, the last session. It's one of them that I've really been waiting for. Let's call Connie and Kathy up to the stage to hear their story. Whoa. Hope that thing's not loaded, no. Okay, so there'll be some of you who don't know who this couple are. That's because you're not on social media and you don't listen to East Coast radio. But Connie and Kath are pastors down at Umkomas. So Kath, can I just let's go into the background a bit and find out a little bit more about the family before we get to this epic week. So how long have you been married?
This is our 25th year. We're celebrating in October.
Wow. And did you marry a saved man or not?
Yes, I did.
Oh, you did, eh? Where did you find him?
In Johannesburg. He was at Bible school in Rhema.
Oh, wow. There we go, eh? So were you at Bible school together?
No, I was living in Durban. I was part of Durban Christian Center.
Durban Christian Center girls came hunting.
Okay, they're fine.
Oh gosh.
So then did you go straight into ministry? So did you marry a pastor?
No. No, it was a long journey. Yeah. God actually just took us through. We were very involved in church, the church that we were in, and then we joined. Then was Hillcrest Christian Fellowship, and then became deacons. And then as we started planting different sites, we felt the call of God that we really wanted to plant. And so we went with Ross and Al-Marie when they took over a site, in Waterfall.
Okay.
And just were mentored by them for that year. And then, shortly after that, we went down to Umkomas.
All right. So just a couple more things. You got two girls?
Yes, two girls that are here.
They're both here?
Yes, they're both here.
Wow. We should at least see them stand up.
Yes.
Would they be? Are they your height, Connie? So I don't know if we'll see
They
them.
are, and they're both single.
Oh, there we go.
They said I must say that.
So one's a student, one's at school.
Yes. Kayla's at varsity. She's studying architecture, and she's turning 21. And Katie is 16, and she's in Kingsway High.
They're both single, Connie.
They asked for an ad break, so I thought
When a dad wanders around with a spear gun like this, I don't think they got much chance. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So when did the plant happen, Con?
So I think just like Tim said, God stirred something in our hearts in 2008. And I went to Kath with Ezekiel 47, said, I feel God's telling us to move to Umkomas. And she said, anywhere but Umkomas. And then...
So for those who don't know, like Umkomas is that spot between Toti and Skopje.
It's just before you get to heaven. It's
the end of that dirty river.
Yeah. But, and just I want to encourage guys who want to do a church plant, don't do it on your own. Do it with your wife.
That's a good idea.
No, listen to me. This is the serious, Connie, believe it or not.
Have some kids so you can preach to somebody.
Yeah. No, it's just so important that you go together as a couple, that you are both in agreement. And I'm telling you now, if it's of God, He will confirm it with both of you. It won't just be in the husband's heart to go and the wife isn't, or in the wife's heart and the husband isn't. And so I left it. And then in October of 2008, God gives Kath a dream where we're living by the coast. I'm working part-time for a company I'm working full-time for. She's nursing part-time. She wasn't nursing at the time. And both of those have been fulfilled. So God will confirm that in your hearts and before you go. And then in April 2011, we moved to Umkomas.
Okay.
And we started the church in July 2011.
And so what do you do other than pastor? Do you have another job?
Yeah, I try and dodge spears. And no, so I do. I am full-time. I help out in surgery part-time when they get double booked. I teach scuba, and we've got a self-catering unit in Umkomas, lovely self-catering unit.
So hang on, so help out in surgery, just to explain, you weren't kidding there, you do something with medical stuff.
Yeah, so I go into theatre with surgeons, orthopedic surgeons, and help them with broken bones, spines, hips, that kind of thing.
How do you help him?
Just technical advice, really,
Okay.
based on my
Tell the doctor
products.
what to do when he's.
I try not to, yeah, but every now and again they listen to me.
Okay. So you're in the medical field. And okay, so let's get to the so one of the things you do is you do scuba diving. Teach people how to scuba dive. Do you teach people how to spearfish?
I'm obviously not good at that.
Okay, so let's go to that day now, the day that this big event happened. So talk us through. You got up normal day, took your one daughter to school.
Yeah, so I was telling Grant, it's just incredible how it's almost like I see God on that day just go and play, and it's almost like a movie where you go back in time and you're back in the present, and then you go forward in time and you're back in the present, and then you go back in time. And so on that morning, Katie has had a dance competition up in Joburg. And so I dropped her off with a dance teacher at 4:30 in the morning. Her dance teacher's husband has a boat and he's a spearo. So quick introduction. How's it? I'm coming back. Love to spear with you. I'm going to go and spearfish. And so got home, swapped cars, went and picked up my friend Chris, and we went to Scottborough to go.
So other daughter at this stage
No.
is at varsity.
Kayla's in varsity, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Katie's now flying to Joburg. I'm in the water. We
Just-
get there.
You and your one friend.
Yeah. Chris looks at it and he goes, I don't think this is a good idea. I never listen to Chris anymore because I found out that he calls the currents wrong. And so I decided, Chris, it's fine. We'll be fine. You're experienced. I'm experienced. We're going in. The sea was not pretty. And so, I went in. And then by the time I got behind backline, I looked back and I saw Chris had exited the ocean, but I'd been caught in quite a strong current. So I continued with my dive looking for reef.
Fish on the reef.
Yeah, you find the reef, you find the fish.
Okay.
And
So you out there, the object was to go and shoot some fish.
Yeah.
And you were on your own.
Yes.
Anybody else on the beach?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one or two fishermen.
Okay. This is a weekday, so
Yeah, it's a Friday morning.
the Barleys aren't there.
No.
Okay.
No holiday makers or anything like that.
Okay, so you alone, is it like a common thing to be fishing alone?
Yes.
So how far out were you?
Probably about 200 or 300 meters behind backline looking for reef.
Okay.
And I didn't see any. I did see some reef, managed to wrestle a cray. And then eventually I realized this current's going to push me way north. So I started coming in towards the caravan park area at Scottborough.
With a crayfish in tow.
I caught one crayfish.
Okay.
Silly crayfish.
So
Yeah.
you had a crayfish.
I had one cray.
Coming back in.
Yes.
Okay, then what happened?
So I was, I found clean water. It was in about 2 to 3 meter water, and still looking for crayfish. But then while I was looking for the crayfish, I found that this was a lead mine. So there was like lead all over the place. And this friend of mine, Chris, very generous. Often we come out of the water. I'm not a good subsistence guy. I'll go and just enjoy the water. So I'll come out with nothing, and Chris will come out with 3 crays, and then he'll give me 1 or 2 crayfish to take home. So I thought, you know what, let me repay the favor and pick up some lead, because he
Sinkers.
melts lead. Yeah, he melts lead for weight belts. And so I was playing around between catching crays or teasing them and picking up sinkers.
So why are you swimming like this? Where is your spear gun?
So next to me.
But it's like, is it getting dragged behind you or what?
No, so you kind of like you take it down with you, and then you put it down, and then you look for your stuff, and then.
So it's not tied to you?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not tied to me.
Is it loaded?
Yes.
And look, I've never held a gun like that before. So does it have a safety catch?
Yes.
And is it supposed to be on? Speaking as an instructor.
Rory, help me here. You know what the thing is? The amount of times I have had a big fish swim past me and the safety's been on.
So you miss it because it just goes.
I don't miss it. I don't shoot because the safety's on, and I pull the trigger, and I'm like, ha ha.
And they don't wait for you.
No, they don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no, safety's off.
So safety's off. That thing could go off at any time.
It's not supposed to.
Okay. All right. I'm just checking. So now you're playing, looking for sinkers, and you got a loaded gun without a safety catch.
Yes.
Where?
Lying on my right-hand side.
Okay.
Because obviously I'm right-handed, so the way in which we carry the gun, I'll just quickly hold it. All right.
Yeah. How far can it shoot? I just want to know that.
So I'll explain just now. So this is how we normally hold the gun.
You guys are in danger right there.
When we're diving. So it's loaded, and you kind of like just swim along like this. And then, obviously when you go for the crayfish, you put it down, and then you've got one hand to hold on, and the other hand to grab the crayfish or the sinkers in my case. So that was the idea.
Okay, so it was lying on the floor, and you were going for sinkers.
Yes. So most of you will know, depending on the tide, you get waves that crash at the back, and then it kind of like there's a break, and then waves pick up again. And I was thinking I was in that middle section, and the way in which we work is, I call it a steam train. I don't know what the experienced spearers call it. But I just call it a steam train because you can actually hear the waves coming like this, and then we usually just hold our breath and go under the wave and wait for it to come over and then blow the water out. And so my gun's lying next to me, and I didn't hear the wave because it actually crashed on me. And I remember that, and I remember feeling something hit my face inside. Weirdest way to explain it. And my first thought was reef, but it was very brief because I knew I wasn't near any structures of reef or anything like that. And
so when you say reef, you first thought you'd hit your head on the reef.
Well, that's usually what happens. Sorry, it happens. It's not the first time I would have been smashed against reef. And I realized that this can't be reef. And then I looked down in my mask, and my mask there was already blood in my mask. And I realized this spear has hit my head. I can't understand how. I can't explain to myself why this would have happened, but it's happened. And so as I'm coming up out of the water, I look down, see the blood in my mask, and I realize my head's come out of the water. And so I tried to take my mask off my face. The problem is that my spear had pinned my mask onto my face. So I can't take my mask off. And all I want to do is just stay alive. So I start screaming. I'm like, help me, somebody help me, please, will somebody help me? Because it's doing two things. The one is it's alerting people to the fact that there's someone in the water, and it's also letting me know that I'm alive.
But Connie, there's hardly anybody there.
No, there's hardly anybody there, yeah.
And where's your gun at this stage? Is it attached to that spear?
Yes.
So it's wafting around.
That's exactly something I want to demonstrate here. So can I ask Katie to come along? Gonna hit anything.
Katie, are you a spear fisherman? Oh. Whoa.
Kate, I think walk this way.
For the nervous guys up front, I don't think it's loaded at this point.
Okay, you can put it down, Kate. Thanks. Just drop it there. It's fine. Just make sure it's not snagged on anything. Okay. So, thanks, Ed. All right. Are you standing on it? Thank you. All right. So, this is not the same spear gun. I'll explain to you what happened to my one. But This is a spear gun. And so this spear has got a line that attaches it to the gun itself. And then at the end of this gun, this is the original line. I've calculated it's about 12 meters of line with a buoy attached to the end over there. And so yeah, this went into the spear went into my face. I think they've got
Let's see the picture.
Yeah. So that's it. The original spear. Thank you. Sorry, I should have told you PG rated.
Oh,
But let me tell you something. There is nothing that would have stopped that gun from going off. I have come to realize. Because God had a plan. God had a plan for our lives so that Kath and I can be sitting over here telling you guys about how awesome God is. And we've had the privilege of speaking on various platforms already that we would never have got before. I was telling to the lady, Lesejo, who was doing our interview for You Magazine. I said to her, Lesejo, I said, the fact that, I said, if this spear had just passed my nose, and I'd said to you, Lesejo, this is what possibly could have gone wrong. And I told you all the different things that could have happened to me. She just shook her head. She said, I wouldn't even have responded to your email. But because you had this stuck in your head, I'm sitting here, flew down from Joburg to come and interview us. And I'm thinking, God, this is your plan. This is all part of your plan. So, Kate, you can leave it there. You can go and sit down. Because I've still got a lot to do with this.
so there was a crayfish attached to that.
Yes, there was a bag on the end of that. I took the bag off.
There's a crayfish attached to that. That gun was attached to the spear, which was attached to your head.
Correct.
And you were walking backwards because you had your flippers on.
Yeah.
And you had this spear in there and your mask stuck on your head. And you
Yeah.
were screaming at you didn't know who.
Yeah. So the one miracle, just let's go through a couple of miracles. The first miracle is I was blind. I had blood in my mask. I couldn't see which way to go. So my first miracle is I walked in the right direction. I could have gone backwards into the ocean, and I wouldn't have known the difference. That was the first miracle. The second miracle was that we met the fisherman that pulled me out. And I said, one of the questions I've had, sorry, I've got my back to you guys. Yeah, I want
The
to turn
camera's
around.
on you, so it's
Is the
fine.
camera
I can
on
see
me?
you.
Okay.
I can see you.
One of the questions I had for this fisherman was, who brought my gear in? Because this is quite a long thing. So, Grant, can I just ask you to pull the trigger there, please?
I meant that way.
No.
Aim this way.
Straight. Aim it straight. You pull it?
Pull it, yeah?
Okay, there we go. Tim, I noticed Paula's cuddling behind you. Okay, so I want to put this into perspective. This is in my head. Okay, the spear is 1.5 meters long. It weighs 1.2 kilograms. I'm not a guy with long arms, so I cannot reach the end of that line. I say to this, Grant, you can put that down. So I say to the fisherman, so I remember you behind me, and I remember you taking me out, and then I remember you saying walk backwards. I said, is that when you went to go and fetch my gear? Because you've got to understand that this is attached to my face. There's current and waves coming all the time. If the current pulls, and that floats when the spear isn't in it, when the current pulls this, I just become a windcock. Because the currents can pull that, and it's going to pull the end of my spear, which is lodged in my head. So my whole head's going to spin. And I don't know that it's coming because I'm blind. He says, Connie, I said, what happened? He's blind. Well, he's not blind, but he needs glasses to see properly. He wasn't wearing his glasses, and he was wearing a hoodie, so he couldn't hear me. He said he saw some arm movements, and then he saw, he took his hoodie off, and he heard me calling for help. He thought I'd caught a big fish. And he said, when he got to me, the end of the spear had snagged on a rock. I was sitting on a rock 5 meters in. There is a picture, the first picture with the ocean. Actually, there's another one. Yeah, so that's more or less what the sea looked like. There's another one where there's rescuers on the beach. There we go. Okay, yeah. So if you look on just in the ocean over there, you see there's rocks over there. I was sitting like a mermaid on that rock. All right, calling for help. The end of my spear was snagged on the rock. So I said to this guy, so when did you get my gear? He says, I didn't get your gear. I said, well, who got my gear? He says, you were holding it in your hands. Now, I'm telling you guys now, I was blind. I can't see my gun. I was sitting. With this and my boy and my rope in my hands, waiting on a rock for a guy to come and save me. Come on, Jesus.
Amazing.
Hey?
Amazing. Amazing.
I'm telling you now, I don't know. I'm looking forward to God explaining to me what. In fact, I ask Him every now and again, Lord, just let me know what happened.
So can I just ask a little thing?
Yeah.
At the end of that spear,
Yes.
there's quite a long barb there.
Yeah.
So can the camera just pick that up?
Yeah. There we
So
go.
that was inside your head, that thing.
Yes.
So there it is, eh?
Yeah.
So I know we might be jumping ahead in the story
Carry
here,
on.
but that thing went in your cheek, if you look at that picture, and it came out here. So where was that barb? It was like behind your eyes.
Behind my left eye. In my eye. Yeah.
So then how did they cut it off for you before they put you in the
Yeah. So
ambulance
on the
or what?
beach, they tried to cut the end of the spear off with a bolt cutter. And I am so glad they never got that right, because the vibrations when that snaps through the actual metal is indescribable. In fact, in surgery, we do it for spines, and you cannot hold that rod with your two bare hands because of the vibrations afterwards.
Were you telling them what to do?
So they didn't. I didn't tell them to cut it, but I was communicating with them. Yeah.
Sure. So how did they eventually cut it?
Angle grinder.
While you were on the beach?
While I was on the beach, they got
Were you
enough
like holding
extension
it?
cords to get all the way down to the beach and cut it with an angle grinder.
Yo. So can we just, Kath, and you were oblivious to what was going on?
I had been called as soon as he got pulled out of the sea. He said a few things. He said, "My name is Connie Hallowell." He said, "I'm a pastor. I'm from City Hill Church in Umkomaas. Can someone please phone my wife?" And
You gave out your number.
he gave out my number, and he got to the last three digits, and he said, "Thank you, God. I can think clearly." And so I was called by a gentleman, a bystander, one of the gentlemen that owns a shop on the beach.
What did he say to you?
He said, "Your husband's been involved in a diving accident." He said he has a very, very serious facial wound. He never told me that he had a spear in his head, which I was very grateful for.
Because you're a nurse.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I kind of thought, well, maybe his flesh is kind of hanging off, but he said he's got a very serious facial wound. How soon can you get here?
So you raced down there. What did you see?
I didn't get there. I didn't get there before the ambulance left. It was a series of events. The gentleman that was with Connie came back to bring our car back, and he was in a terrible, terrible state.
Wow.
He was more shocked than
The
Connie
dude, you mean the
was.
dude who was spearfishing with you?
Yeah, he's back on medication.
Is he? So did you miss it entirely?
I missed that part. I only found him at the ambulance.
Wow.
Mhm.
So,
The ambulance stopped on the freeway. Sorry.
and did you climb into that ambulance?
No. So I got to the beach and I phoned this gentleman again. He said, actually, they've just left. And I just began to pray. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know where they'd taken him. And so I thought, well, Kingsway is the closest hospital. So I get back on the freeway and I'm driving past Umgababa and I see 3 ambulances and a traffic cop parked on the side of the road, but there's no accident. And now I'm trying to rationalize in my head, why would they be parked here? And I go past and I feel the tugging of the Holy Spirit just speaking to me. And I say, why would they be here? And then suddenly the thought comes to my mind they only stop when they need to stabilize a patient. And I think, okay, I pull over and I reverse as far as I can up the freeway and get out, and I walk the rest of the distance. And I get to just near the ambulances, and I see a paramedic, and I just said to him, I said, my husband has been involved in an accident. And he said to me, a diving accident. And I said, yes. And he said, he's here with me. And that was just an unbelievable miracle. I was one of the last cars before they'd stopped the traffic.
Wow.
Because the helicopter was coming, and that's actually why they'd stopped on the side of the freeway to wait for the helicopter. And I was one of the last cars to
So
get
what
through.
did you see? Was the spear obviously still in the head?
Yes. I
There
was
is a picture. There is a
Yeah.
picture with red. It's got me. And
There.
Yeah.
there we
That's
go.
what you saw.
That's Kathy's picture.
So I came around the ambulance, and that was what I saw. And literally, my knees just went weak. I've never had that experience in my whole nursing career, actually feeling like that. And as Connie loves to tell You magazine, it's not the first time my knees have gone weak for him.
Oh,
But
my.
I started to feel like I was going to faint, and then I just said, no, I need to stay strong.
Was
and my
he
next-
conscious? Was he talking to you?
He heard me. He heard me take like this gasping breath, and he was like, "Love, Kath." He says, "I'm okay. I'm all right."
Yes.
He says. So I have to say, that my first words to him were, "I was like, love, you are not okay. Have you seen yourself?" Yeah, and then the next thing was, I said to the paramedics, I said, sorry, but I need to take a picture because this is going to be a miracle. And that was the photo that I took. They all laughed
Wow.
at me, but I took
Wow.
that picture, and that was a photo.
Wow. So airlifted to Maritzburg. Why did they take you there?
So at the time, what they do is they actually call all the trauma units, all the hospitals, because that helicopter can get anywhere quickly. And so they called all the hospitals to find out who was on call. And St. Anne's at that time had the highest concentration of trauma specialists that they could bring me to.
So technically, with a spear millimeters away from your brain, resting against your eye, just missed your teeth. Technically, what could go wrong with that operation?
So there's a picture of a face, not the plastic one, the one with all the nerves. There we go. Thank you. All right. The blue are veins, the red's arteries, the yellow is nerves. If you sever any one of the veins or arteries, the only way to stop the bleeding is literally to stop the heart, because it's going to pump blood. That's what it's made to do. The trajectory of the spear, according to a friend of mine who's an anesthetist, he says that the spear could not have chosen a more perfect path through your head to cause the little damage that it did. If I can get the next, there's another one now with a plastic head looking straight at you. All right. So that's more or less what you're going to be looking at. Now, I want you to understand the spear went in on the right cheek. Okay. Those are tendons and ligaments that are coming down there with blood vessels. And it came through, show me the next picture. There we go. It came through there by the white part. It came through there, out just below my left temple. Now, well, on the just about by the temple. Where is it? What's here? Yeah. So this is the incredible thing, is the amount of stuff that could have gone wrong. If you had to put them on a scale, there is no amount of things that could go right that would outweigh what could have gone wrong. And so, apart from the blood vessels, because I could have bled to death, there's nerves. It could have affected various nerves. One of them, I wouldn't have been able to swallow. I mean, can you imagine that? Just having to, being fine, but not being able to swallow.
How close were you to losing your eye?
A couple of mils.
And the brain?
Well, there's not much. So
yours is way back here.
Way back here. Yeah, no, it's Grant. I cannot. It's just it's the difference between mils and centimeters that just made this story so incredible.
So apart from your war wound,
yeah,
what else I mean, is there a hole in your nose or something? What apart from?
Yeah. So what happened is this is how God works. God's like, I'm going to do something. It's not going to be easy, but trust me, it's going to be good. But so because of the force of this trajectory, it went through my septum, which is in your. If you all take your right finger and you put it into your nose like this.
Yes.
You know what? I really, really wanted to get that picture. I can't believe you oaks didn't fall for it. You're the clever bunch. Anyway, there's a cartilage. When you get home or you're in your car and you're driving along, just stick your finger up and you'll feel a cartilage in there. But because of the force of this trajectory, it made a clean hole through my septum. And that takes days to heal. How awesome is God? It did rupture my my orbit. So your eye socket over here, it ruptured it. Fractured it. And so the surgeon puts a piece of gauze, calls it plastic. It's not really plastic, but he puts that in. And your head, as you all know, it bleeds very quickly, or a lot. So your head has got the highest concentration of vascularization in any part of the body. And so your head heals the quickest. So he said within a few days, it's going to be healed. It's fine.
Wow.
And
so what did the doctors, I mean, so you were now in hospital, straight into theater.
not straight into theater.
They got to plan the operation.
No, so what happened was I went into a hypothermic, I don't know if you call it shock or whatever it is, but my body temperature dropped down to 35 degrees. And they had to bring me up to 36 plus degrees in order for them to operate. Otherwise, your blood clots in theater. So I had to wait. So yeah, I only operated at about 3 o'clock.
And so, Kath, what were the doctors saying to you?
Right from the time that I got to the actual ambulance, to the doctors, everyone was positive. It was just so amazing and encouraging for me, so that I was giving a positive report. They all just said it appears to be a miracle, and the anesthetist spoke to me beforehand, and he said, "Look, I've chatted to the surgeon. He really doesn't seem to think that there's going to be any problems."
Incredible. Operation, how long?
45 minutes.
You kidding? Have you got the spear?
Yeah,
That's the actual one.
that's the one that they pulled out.
God grief.
It won't bite anymore.
Yes. Amazing. It's going to get framed somewhere.
Yeah.
And 45 minutes.
Yeah. So the only cuts I've got on my face are what the spear caused. So I've got a little notch over here. Always wanted a dimple. Got it now. And then it came out just here by my left temple. And I've got a blue eye at the moment because what he did was he went in through my eye socket. So he literally pulled my eye forward. I don't know whether he took my eye out and asked the scrub nurse to keep an eye on it, but after Tim's dance moves, I had to come up with something funny.
You had to, eh?
But he literally went through my eye socket, and that's why I've got a bit of a blue eye at the moment.
So,
And there's no other cuts.
so Kath, I mean, apart from the miracle of the trajectory, so I get that God used his incompetence with the spear gun to his glory, and like somehow he got that trajectory 100% correct. Apart from that miracle, just tell us some other miracles. I mean, one, your daughters didn't have to go through the trauma, but what other things did you see God's hand working on?
I just wanted to start with one of the details in the sea. So when the accident happened, Connie was about 20 meters offshore. Where he was found on that rock is about 5 meters from the shore. Now that part of the journey
He doesn't
is
remember.
God's secret.
Wow.
Nobody saw it to our knowledge. Nobody knows, but he guided him through the waters.
Wow.
He couldn't see. If you look at, we have the conditions of the water that day, and the sets were very close together. Now he's got fins on. He can't bend down and take them off, and he can't see. And God led him from there. That is an incredible miracle for me.
Wow.
Just also the way that God prepared me. So 2 days before, I'm watching this video by Bruce Wilkinson, and he talks about a pastor friend of his who was going through a hard time. And the pastor said he'd had enough. And he said, devil, he pulled up 2 chairs, he faced them, put them facing one another, and he said, devil, you're going to sit down and you're going to watch while I praise. And so as I'm driving to the scene, these are the thoughts that are going through my mind. You need to praise. You need to praise. And I just that was the one thing. The other thing was that I needed to. God said you need to speak life over him, and so it had just been on our way back from the Philippines. We arrived the week before that, back from the Philippines. Had the most incredible trip, and on the way back on the plane, we're watching this movie, and I think it's just come out now called Breakthrough, and it's about this boy that falls through the ice, and he's kind of like this declared brain dead. I think he was in the water for 15 minutes or so, and his mom has this most incredible faith, and she's standing in his room, and these people are coming in and they're speaking death over him, and she just said, if you have anything negative to say, please would you leave the room. And these are the 2 things as I'm driving to the scene and as I'm praying and I'm pleading with God for his life. And I remember saying, you shared this morning about that God causes miracles in our lives because of the nations, because he wants to send us to the nations. And I'm pleading with God and I'm saying, God, please save him. Save him. There's so many things that we want to do for you, Lord. There's so many things we're so excited about what we want to do for you. And so these are the things, as I'm going through to the accident scene, God is busy preparing my heart, and he's speaking these things, speaking life into my life through the things that he's just
Wow.
they've just happened. The other thing you asked about the girls, it was so traumatic, the pictures, within minutes, before I had even seen him, long before I saw him.
Social media.
Thousands of people had seen him. The Hillcrest elders, within minutes, they were on the phone, phoning me, praying for us. And so I was desperate for the girls not to see those pictures. And it was just amazing how God strategically placed them at that time and carried them through the process.
Incredible. Con, just it's clear, man, God's got a call on your life. But maybe just interpret it a little bit more for us. What do you, and this morning you were talking about guns and what God's doing with these people, and just speak from your heart.
I phoned, there's a guy called Shane Briett. Before I do that, I just want to share a scripture that God gave me. So Kath had my phone, and Uncle Henny Cater would shudder to hear that this is my Bible. But so I get my phone, and the first thing I want to do is I just want to read the Bible. And one of the first scriptures God gives me, now you must understand, I had a near-death experience. First scriptures God gives me is Psalms 119, verse 77. Listen to how appropriate this is for me. Let your mercy come to me, that I may live. For your law is my delight. I thought, Lord Jesus, what a privilege. And a lot of people have asked me, were you scared that you were going to die? The honest truth is that death never crossed my mind. I just knew I wanted to live. And while we were at Hole in the Wall, this one guy was telling a story of Paul, and I looked at him and I was like, hang on, that's me. Listen to this. In Acts 14, 19 and 20, it says, but the Jews came from Antioch and Iconium, and having persuaded the crowds, they stoned Paul and dragged him out of the city, supposing that he was dead. And like this guy said, when they stoned guys, it wasn't those little rocks that Jackie was using yesterday. They had big, solid rocks. And they'd left him for dead. And Paul was not in a condition that he could pray. He was knocked out. He was assumed dead. But you know what happened? The disciples gathered around him. It says, but when the disciples gathered around him, he rose up and entered the city. And I tell you, we were so surrounded by prayer. The prayers that a lot of you guys gave up were incredible. And Kath says, first time she's ever felt that she was carried on prayer. And I love this because literally the next day, the surgeon came to me and he says, Mr. Hallowell, I see no reason to keep you. I would like to discharge you. But you can't be discharged straight out of ICU. You've got to go through a ward anyway. And listen to what happened to Paul. The next day, it says, and on the next day, he went with Barnabas to Derby. And I was like, hang on a second, that's me. So I phoned Shane Brett this morning, who's the owner of Free Divers. There's a picture of me with a fish. If you guys can put that up. I just want to show you guys. I shot that last week.
Hang on a minute. From the accident to back in the water with a spear gun, how long?
2 weeks.
Oh, are you kidding me?
You can't see it nicely, but that is a beautiful blue wetsuit that the owner of Free Divers gave me. I said to him, can you sew my wetsuit back together? He's like, no, I'm going to give you a brand new wetsuit and a spear gun. But the reason I called him this morning was to find out what can you equate the force of this gun to? And so his words to me were, he says, your saving grace was that there was an equal and opposite reaction to the gun going off. He says, because the gun went in the opposite direction to the spear. He said, if you or someone had been holding that spear, based on the path that that thing went through, the spear would have gone straight through your head. Now, even with that perfect trajectory, I could have bled to death. Because that's what happens. You never take a sharp object out. But here's what I wanted to chat to you guys about. So, Grant, you've never loaded a spear gun.
Never held one.
Okay, so hold one. Okay, I want you to load it for me. Don't worry, it won't go off.
Okay.
And
we're aiming it this way.
And can I also just say, it's an old rubber, so it's easy to load. Go for it, Grant.
Well, what do you want me to do? I have no idea.
Pull that onto there.
Pull this?
Yeah, onto there.
Gee, whiskers.
Come on, Grant.
Exactly how strong are you? You want me to put this onto here?
Yes, please. Can you?
Sheesh, no, man.
Okay.
There must be a trick.
Rory, where's Rory? Can you come and help here? Sorry, Rory, I know I didn't prep you for it, but I just know you can do it.
Can he do it that way?
He can do it that way.
Yeah, thanks.
Sorry, I can do it, but I thought let me rather. So this is an experienced Spiro. Okay, Grant. So yeah, point it towards there, just so
you
that.
Can hit our
but
screens,
they must see you. Let the camera see you.
Whoa.
Okay, and let go. Awesome. So you see how easy it is to load when you know what to do with it. Did you guys see that? So here's what I believe God told me. He says, you guys are all a spear gun. Every single one of you is a spear gun. But some of you aren't loaded because there's a preparation phase that you've got to go through. Some of you want to be loaded, but you don't know how to do it. And God says you need to go through a period of just spending time with me. You see, it's not about the gun. It's about God. It's all about Him. It's all for Him. And you know who's scared of you loading this gun? It's the devil. And so what the devil does is he puts fear in your heart. Just like Grant. Grant wasn't keen on loading this gun. But Rory knew what to do because he's done it so many times. And I'm telling you now that loading this gun starts with practice. It starts with time in the water. It starts with spending time with Him, loading the gun, unloading the gun, loading the gun, unloading the gun. And you have got a call of God on your life. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how young you are. God is telling you today, This is a tip because God wants you to be equipped. And you can sit there and you go, God, I don't think I'm equipped enough. Well, what you're telling God is, God, I don't think you're big enough. Because the God that blows the wind on the ocean is the God that caused that wave. The God that knew what that wave would do to me. It's the same God that I say is the God of all gods. And I'm maybe sitting up here, but I'm telling you now, there are people over here. Every single one of you have got a story to tell. You just don't realize it. You've got to say to God, Lord Jesus, what is my testimony? And as you spend time with Him, you see the word said, it said, because I delight in your law. As you delight in His law, He will pour down strategy into your life. He will stir something up inside of your heart of where you can go, what you can do, and just be obedient to that. Because God's got a plan for you. And He wants to stir something of a greatness. There are nations waiting for you to arrive. You just got to do it.
What a story. What a story. Now, while Connie was finishing off with that thought, you know, strategically, if you're going to plant a church, kamas. If you're looking to get the gospel to the world, strategically, what's the population there? Like 300. It's like, and yet God didn't come on, man. His voice will hit the planet. That picture, I'm sure, is not just on the continent of Africa. Isn't God amazing? Absolutely. Okay, just back on just last little detail. Did you learn anything from this practically? I just want to know if I should send my mates to be trained by you or not.
Yeah, there's
Safety trigger?
no. You know, I mean, there are some tips and tricks, and I think the one thing that also it's just there's a message in it is I never did, I do now, but you unload your gun when you're coming into the crunch zone where the waves are breaking. But Rory will back me up on this. The reason why we don't do that is because there are some big fish that swim the waves, that ride the waves, and so you don't want to do it. But listen to me. This is God.
Yeah.
Is that God will tell you when to load that gun and when to unload it. And you know, you don't discharge your gun pointing it at your buddy. So you don't discharge your call against other people. You understand?
Yeah.
You don't use the talent and the gift that God's given you against other people. It's there to lift the church up. It's there to blow wind into other people's sails. So there's a time to load and there's a time to discharge. And you've got to trust God for when that moment is.
Amazing. Let's give them a round of